Everybody. I see some familiar faces and some not, and you are all just so very, very welcome. I'm going to start off just with this with the singing bowl, because we all come from different places, different time zones, busy lives. It was just to try to bring us together a little more. So I can't see myself here. There we go. So yes, showing up for life on Earth. How do we do that, and what does it do for us? Which is a lot, actually. I'm going to read first a poem. Many of you might know it because it's just so beautiful, by Mary Oliver. Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and fighting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. And we are in the family of things. These conversations, I'm hoping, are going to develop into something that is an alive, breathing organism that generates a field of consciousness to generate further and further out into the world. It's static. I'm going to talk a little bit, and then ideally we all come from our deepest selves in response to what we talked about, to share what we're thinking, what might help others. I'm also open to suggestions about topics, but when we have a topic, like showing up for the earth, that's where I'm hoping we can all come from and answer to. Gita, who is with us tonight, I had a conversation with her, and I'm open to conversations with any of you. As long as it's a relatively small group, I can do it. And I asked her, why are you willing to get up at 2 or 3 in the morning in Denmark? And she said, because I consider this a workspace, my workspace. And what a beautiful image for us. It's our workspace where we're supported by one another as we explore and help each other find our own way, access our own strength, and find a way to make it consistent so we live it and breathe it. That's what I hope for these conversations. I was reading something from a book called The Three Marriages. So I guess to go back, what does it mean to show up for life? Life on Earth. For me, it means having fallen in love with life on Earth, I need to show up to do something to give back to the incredible gift of being here, being alive, and being on the Earth. Show up for it in some way where I am contributing back in a really significant way. How do we do that? I wrote something that's going to be on our next newsletter, and it was, how do we take action for nature and animals in these difficult times? Do you suggest things to people, or is that just respecting their own ability to think? Now, what level do you suggest things that doesn't minimize our immense capacity for brilliance and creativity, a human capacity that we each individually have? Does it really honor that capacity to say recycle, or donate, or call your congressman? My own thinking is that you don't motivate people, you motivate yourself, and that motivates people. So I had a retreat recently. It was a wonderful retreat. And at the end, I was talking about Earthfire's work and trying to save land on Earth for the animals, and about the power of one person, how much power we each have. And the person who was leading it said, yes, spread the word. My immediate reaction was, no, that's too easy. Spreading the word is not enough. This is our earth. This is our home. This is the time for every single human being, ideally, on the planet to say, this is my home. And I'm going to do what I can to save it for myself, for the other life, and for future generations. At this time, we need to step up. Fear itself can be looked at as an indulgence. We don't indulge in fear if a baby is drowning. We don't indulge in fear when there's a crisis. We have it, but we don't let it stop us and run us. And these times call for a deep kind of action. How do we do that? How do we go within ourselves and get that inner strength and certainty and find our own path, and also go outside so that we're acting out in the world, not just looking at it in ourselves forever, as Andrew Harvey would say, meditating at our navel while the world does what it does. First, you do have to go in, but then you have to go out. And what he says is sacred activism. My own feeling is we have to be grounded in order to be active. If we're not grounded, it'll be a frenetic activism that goes along like some of the politically correct type of actions that environmentalists do that turn other people off, not thought through, not coming from a deep understanding of all of our connections to Earth with compassion for everybody. And if we just stay within ourselves, nothing happens either. It's a delicate, beautiful balance that I hope we can find each other where we do inner work and outer work. If we are not grounded, then we're not focused. And the way to get anything done in the outer world is to be intensely focused on something. That's what works. Not disorganized, which frenetic energy does, and the external world is doing to us constantly now. But to help ourselves stay focused once we just figure out what our path is. The Buddha talked about laziness, which is one element of why many of us don't take actions. And he said there were three aspects. And Richard, if you're on this call and you want to clarify any of this later, please do. One is comfort, and this is very vivid. If I am in my warm, toasty bed and it's freezing cold outside and the dawn is coming, I just don't want to get out of that bed. I really don't. I mean, I hate the cold, even though I live here. Comfort can be a problem, but if we get out of our bed and go, we're only so happy that we saw the dawn, or as you said the other day, Chelsea, get up at 3 in the morning to climb the mountain, and then you're at the mountaintop at dawn, and it's all worth it. So one question is, how do we get out of that comfort level to take some kind of action? Another second thing, in quote, laziness, which there really is no such thing. It's the components of laziness, and that is a loss of heart. It's too much, or damage has been done to us early on in our lives, and so we've lost heart. We don't think it's possible for us to do anything or to make any change. And the third one is just out and out cynicism. It's not going to work anyway. And the antidote to those three, he calls joyful exertion. Joyfully acting out in the world undoes all of those three things. But we're difficult people, humans, not difficult. We're wired in ways that it's hard for us not to be, quote, lazy. It's hard for us to do things, discipline ourselves. We need external help. We need internal help, which is the meditation or internal work, and we need external help. External help in the form of structure, in the form of cultural institutions that support insight and art and life, and external support in terms of conversations like this where we support one another, help one another find our way. We can't do it alone, and we can't do it without external support. We're just not that strong yet as humans. Or most of us aren't. I'm not. So I was saying this is not a time to indulge in our fear, but to explore, to tap into our own deepest selves, our own innate wisdom and power and courage to come up with solutions. Not to save the world, because we can't do that, any of us alone, but what is it that we can do? Ironically, the woman who said that herself came from a difficult family, shy and lonely, and developed an entire practice where she would lead group after group after group, powerful groups. And we had a discussion there, and she said, but people need to be led. And I said, I don't know. And this I would love to get your opinion on. Do we need to be led? This is a time when we all need to show up. I personally believe we all have the capacity within ourselves. Every one of us, I think, is a human capacity to come up with initiatives to solve serious problems. If we do need to be led, then at least we can find groups to support us. But my feeling is we have gorgeous capacities within us if we don't feel too afraid or don't quite know how to tap into them. So these kinds of groups, I hope, also help us tap into those. But that woman who said people need to be led was a perfect example of the power of one. She started this entire process herself alone, as did mothers of drunk driving, making an entire shift. There's a wonderful little movie some years ago called The Story of Stuff. And it was just a 20-minute movie, and has now changed into a whole movement of we don't need all this stuff. We have tremendous power as an individual person once we've learned how to tap into it. I'm going to read something, if I can find it. Yeah. So Wordsworth, some 2,200 years ago, wrote, 2 miles I had to walk along the fields before I reached my home. Magnificent the morning was, a memorable pomp, more glorious than I had beheld ever. The sea was laughing at a distance. All the solid mountains were as bright as clouds. The grain was dyed scarlet, drenched in heavenly light, and the meadows and the lowest grounds was all sweetness of a common dawn, dews, vapors, and the melody of birds. Ah, need I say, dear friend, but to the brim my heart was full. I made no vows, but vows were then made for me. Bond unknown to me was given, that I should be, else sinning greatly, a dedicated spirit. Oh, on I walked in blessedness, which even yet remains. This was part of an essay in the book, The Three Marriages by David White. And he says, I made no vows, but vows were then made for me. Saying life comes to find us as much as we go out to find it. But it can only find you if you're paying real attention to something other than your own concerns. You go out of yourself. If you treat the world as if it's not just a backdrop, David White writes, on your own journey, you can have a relationship with it of great beauty. Hearing and seeing without the filter of interpretation is an act of reaching the real conversation at last. And it's this conversation that does all the work of helping us find our way into the future. It says this is where we are in the map of our own life's journey. Being smitten by a path, a direction, well, actually, he says first that there are many ways of doing this. It could be getting into a truck and seeing an open magazine that says negativity is not a bad thing, you work with it. Or it could be seeing an incredible sunset. Or it could be that becomes a doorway rather than an obstacle, a path to follow. And once you're smitten by a path, a direction, an intuited possibility, no matter the territory it crosses, it's as if life has found us at last. And we begin a courtship with our work, whatever it is. For me, it's Earthfire. For Chelsea, it's spiritual ecology. Whatever it is, it demands, like a courtship, it demands a fierce attention to understand what it is we belong to in the world. But to start the difficult path to what we want, we also have to be serious about it. And following this path through increasing levels of seriousness, we reach a certain threshold where our freedom to choose seems to disappear and is replaced by an understanding that we were made for the world in a very particular way, and this way of being is at bottom non-negotiable. It just is. It's as if we choose and choose until there's no choice at all. And suddenly we feel we've been sought out by the world, sought out, acknowledged, named, and recognized. Then the question is whether you will respond, whether you will not turn away, but turn toward it, whether in effect you become a dedicated spirit, as he said. And I think that's what we need during these times. So I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Susan. I would like to open up tonight's conversation to whoever would like to start us off. Again, please be respectful to all of us here tonight by keeping our comments on topic and timely. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Marta Waterman, and I live in the Hudson Valley of New York State. To me, one of the things that is important in showing up is literally showing up in the world, not just to do my jobs, but to go out in nature every day, to go for walks, to be walking mindfully, to open myself up to the sound of the birds and to feel the wind and to just be very present while I'm walking, seeing some beautiful sunrises. And so being out in nature gives me a connection that I don't have if I don't do that. And that kind of awareness that I get from daily being out in nature and really opening myself up to it affects the whole rest of my day. I usually go for walks in the morning. And if I instead go swimming or do something else in the morning, then I sit outside while I have my coffee and just sit quietly. I don't listen to music or headphones or anything while I'm doing this. It's just very quiet. And that gives me a connection to the world around me. And I feel as if so many people get so busy and so into their own routines that they don't take the time to do that, and get real disconnected from the planet. I try and make sure when I'm out for walks that I'm picking up trash if there's any trash along the road, because the planet doesn't want to have plastic bottles on her skin. So I try and just be mindful not only of the beauty of the nature around me, but of the things that are ugly and that are hurting the planet, and try and do my tiny little things that I can do to help her be healthy. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Eva Wimundidambi. I'm a director of One Earth Institute, and I have been watching what you're doing for quite some time. And I wanted to say to Marta, you are so right. One of the aspects is really to go out into nature and to go out of square rooms, if you like. Susan, I wanted to answer one of your questions, or at least attempt, not with my own words, but with those of Mamo Callisto, who is a Colombian elder. And the way we are approaching to reconnect with nature and spirit is through much of the wisdom of indigenous peoples. And we are an indigenous Western partnership, in fact. So I just had the privilege of being with Mamo Callisto, and I asked him what it was that surprised him most and what he found as an obstacle, mostly in people that he was interacting with, because he's here in the States as well as in Europe, as well as really everywhere, so to speak. And he said it was taking responsibility. And, that many people who were coming to him were trying to say to him, you are the elder, you can lead us, you can do this for us. And so he said, it's you taking responsibility first and foremost for what you do. So I just wanted to respond to your questions.
It's lovely. Thank you.
A pleasure.
As always, I don't want to say much because this rest of the time is for all of you, unless you have a specific question. So I'm just going to be quiet.
Something that that reminded me of, in a quote that you had mentioned during your presentation, Susan, is that showing up for the earth. I feel if we shifted our view of it in a sense where we thought of it more of like a courtship, like you called it in that quote, or a relationship. When I think of the relationship I have with friends or a partner, it is always a mutual balance of give and take, and you expect that from both sides. But with our relationship often with Mother Earth, and she's our mother, our lover, our friend, all of these things, it's often a very unbalanced form of, we certainly know how to take, but how often are we giving back, in that mutual balance. And I think that it reminded me that that is what showing up is. It's what showing up in a relationship, but it's also showing up for our relationship with the earth. And that means giving just as much as we take.
May I say something to that? This is so true, and thank you so much for saying that. And what always surprises me is, where does it come from, this unbalanced relationship with our earth? And if you think about it, it was really that we were told to go forth, dominate, and basically rape and pillage. And this is how we have only seen the earth. Now, it is time for us to take that stewardship, to take that reciprocity, that respect back into our relationship with Earth, and allow our survival network, really, because that is what it is. We won't survive without the Earth, to also feel our love. Yeah, thank you.
One of the, if no one's going to speak, I'll speak quickly about something else, which is one of the things we have to do if we love and give back is and what I was trying to get at today is, how do each of us find a path to give back? Each person's path will be unique. And it might be giving love, it might be picking up plastic bottles, but we can do more. We need to do more, and we have the capacity to do more, and it's going to make us feel vibrantly alive to do more. There was many of you might have seen, there was a paper circulated recently by 15,000 scientists talking about climate change. And it was a second warning. They said it's not too late to stop all the worst effects, at least. It's not too late. And they list 11 things we can do. I don't have them all here, but one of them was nature reserves. If that speaks to the deepest one of us, part of us, that there's a place in our, wherever we live, that we can establish a little bit of a preserve, even if it's in the city, it could protect a whole migratory corridor, that birds have a place to go and rest and eat and sleep before they go on. Nature reserves, reducing food waste, all of us can do that. And we can do that in our own communities. We can try and really start to raise consciousness about just how much we waste. There are several other suggestions, and those are suggestions that are not overwhelming. Just like with Mothers of Drunk Driving, she was moved by passion and shifted the culture against driving. We have that capacity in ourselves or in a group. So I want to keep this at it's not up to me, but my hope would be that these conversations would be that inner-outer balance, inner and more philosophical, like give and take, and also with a more practical, which is, okay, what's going to move us? And there's an article I have in a hard copy newsletter coming out by an artist called Anne London, who said, if you're not in love with a painting, it's too much work to finish it. Not in love with the subject. So we have to find something that we're completely in love with, and it doesn't matter what it is, and then go and work with that. Be it a flower, be it polar bears, be it getting rid of garbage, it doesn't matter.
So this is Gabriel Ross from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Hi.
Hello. I just wanted to say a couple of things that I think you're addressing. One is, I like what you said about not leading people. My personal way of showing up with the earth is, I'm an educator. So in the summers, I have a camp for girls, inner city girls, where we take them out so they can really experience nature, not just in the city, but to a wildlife science center where there are wolves that most of these kids have never even seen a wolf before. So to me, it's not so much leading them as it is inspiring them, liberating them to actually have experiences, and then they can go out and lead and make decisions and be peer leaders. And then with women, I do a group in the summers called Mystics at the River, where I take women from the city to the shores of the Mississippi River, several places along the Mississippi River, and give them a chance just to commune with the river. Most of us have never even stopped at the river. We drive over it on freeways. Lots of ways to get to the river, but no one takes the time to give them a structure to do it. So it's not really leading them. I think for me, it's inspiring them. And then what Chelsea said about relationship, again, I think with kids and with adult women, that's not even something we focus on, relationship with the earth. It's all about taking. And so until somebody says to you, but wait, this is a being, this is Gaia, this is a being you can have a relationship with, I don't know if it even occurs to some people. So I think inspiring, holding a vision. I know when I take the kids from the camp out to be with the wolves, I am so excited about it that I think that's contagious. So it's not me telling them so much as it is showing them my own love, how the wolves are so beloved to me. So that's all I want to say. I just thought I would throw in a couple comments. Thank you.
I'll jump in. I'm Wendy from Lafayette, California. And what really resonated with me when you were talking about the question, do we want to be led? And like you, I think it's not to be led, but maybe it's to be linked and to connect, because it's in uniting with others, even the woman who started Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It's finding that thread of connection that we can unite and come together and work together. Because even if somebody has a passion for the flowers or the polar bears or, you know, different things, we still need to somehow create the tapestry of connection so that we can further give to others in terms of that connection. And I love what everyone else has said too, because I think it is motivating ourselves so that we can be a role model for others. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gita. I'm the one who's getting up in the middle of the night here. Happy to. So I'm sitting in Denmark. I've been thinking with everyone else's comments here. My first thought when you were talking, Susan, was how one of the things that Earthfire has brought me recently, it was I came across Terry Tempest Williams in one of the videos, and that was a path for me. I had never heard of her before. So one of her stories was she marching in Washington, and all of a sudden discovers for herself, or turns a corner and hears a voice saying, "Enough! This is not enough." And she asks herself and says that, you know, that where's my ground zero? My ground zero is Utah. And that's a question that I've been asking myself many times daily since I heard her say that. You know, where's my ground zero? And I think that really is a question that we can all ask ourselves, and that's where we find that passion. But is it right now? It's a question that triggers something, stirs something for me. Where, and it may not be the same all the time, but where is my ground zero right now? And that links onto the other question you asked, Susan. What is leadership? And I'm thinking that, to me, leadership is many things. We can have leadership from behind or leadership from in front or whatever, but we can also have leadership from within or leadership from outside. And I think, to me, I believe, and also that's what I hear you suggesting, is that we somehow find a way to lead ourselves, and then we can find somebody else to walk hand in hand with and be led towards something together, or lead together. And that led me on to the thinking that for a number of years I was playing with the concept of being a way shower. And then I discovered that in order to be a way shower, I first of all have to be a pathfinder or a way finder. So, you know, there has to be a finding of a way before we can show anything. So I think that links in with what everybody has been saying, that it's the constant going between inner and outer, going between me and the other, and going between finding and showing, and in that way it's all communication and connection. So yeah, I think that was all I wanted to say right now. Thank you.
I know. Brilliant minds. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's Marta again. I just wanted to say just a couple more things, because we're talking about showing up to the earth, and how the earth how we can give to the earth, what that exchange is. And I think whoever was saying this, and maybe all of us are, that it's so difficult for so many people to even have a concept that the earth is a being and longs to share her love with us and get love back. And so how do we make a connection with her. For me, I don't have a lot of time because I work all the time, but I have a flower garden, and I have a vegetable garden, and a lawn to take care of, and woods to take care of. And what I find happens is I'll go outside for no particular reason, just to go outside because I want to breathe the air. And then I'll notice that some weeds need to be pulled, or I'll realize that I could transplant a flower. And before you know it, I'm out there doing all these things because the earth is speaking to me what she wants to have done. And to me, a huge key in all of us cultivating our relationship, a deeper relationship with the planet, is to get out there. And we can't make other people do that, but if we are connected to the earth and feel that love and feel that joy and excitement in being outside and in smelling the air and feeling the breeze, we have opportunities to share that joy, to share those small experiences with other people. And that can be very motivational, rather than saying, you should get out there and do something on the earth. Rather, to just share our own joy in what we do, connecting with animals and connecting with the earth. So I think a huge key is just to get out there in a quiet and aware way, and the earth will tell us how we can give back to her. That's all I wanted to say.
I've mentioned before, and I think it's important, that we can do this in the depth of a city, in a single leaf or a caterpillar. We don't have to go out into some place that is not easily available to us. Fundamentally, the woman who I was referring to, who started her own business helping people connect to animals, and I said, wait a minute, you're the power of one. Look what you've done. Look at the incredible stuff you've accomplished. She said, the only thing I'll take credit for is that I do listen. And for her, the animals said, basically, she said, you've got to be a shaman. I said, what? She said, I'm a little white woman who's shy. No, that's what you have to do. So I don't know if everyone gets that kind of clarification as she did. And I personally never could say I listened in a sense. I'm not even quite sure how I got here. But on some level, we're listening. And that gives us guidance.
Can I comment on that, Susan? Because what you're saying, the word that really rang through all of it was listen. And I was thinking, going back to you talking about how do I get out of bed when it's cold outside, and how do I motivate myself to get out of my comfort zone. And I think there, to me, the key, and I think the key would apply to anything really, to listen, to begin to listen outside of myself, and maybe to actually allow ourselves to be wherever we are, to notice that, yes, I'm here and I'm actually lying in this nice warm bed, and yes, it's bloody cold outside, but what can I hear? What might be there that might start an impulse in me that I can get myself out of bed and begin to explore that and begin to join with that and become curious. So it's giving ourselves time, and it doesn't have to be a lot of time, but it's just, where do we put our awareness? I think about that often, and when I teach as well, I mean, as an Alexander teacher, for instance, I was just talking to somebody today, and how even when we're just looking at something, we have a tendency to say, well, my eyes are here, I'm looking at something, and then something happens over there, and then the eyes move over there. But that's not the physical movement, because there's a physical movement from here to there, and we just don't notice it. So bringing awareness into that and saying, hey, my eyes are actually moving, and what can I see as I'm moving my eyes? So we may be slowing down a little bit, but it's actually bringing awareness to everything that's happening on the way. And that makes all the difference. So it's slowing down and showing up, not just for Earth, but for life on Earth.
Mm.
And therefore also for Gaia herself, or Earth herself. Yeah.
It's also so much more interesting to live that way. Satisfying and nourishing. I talked about going out and being active, but always it has to be based in groundedness to the earth and love and joy. Otherwise, it's not going to work. We'll get burnt out and it won't work. It needs to be grounded in love and connection and joy. And the thing that you said, Wendy, was so beautiful, that we need to link.
May I speak to that? I couldn't agree more about listening. And
Can you guys hear the wolves just started to howl? I'm going to open the door, so hopefully you can hear it. Excuse me 1 second.
How interesting while we are listening. Yeah. How beautiful.
They do this when we talk well.
Beautiful. Well, look, really,
Wolves and coyotes, because the coyotes won't refuse to be left out.
how many wolves do you have?
9 at the moment.
Beautiful. I love wolves. So, just 2 words about listening, if I may. There is a beautiful Aboriginal word called dadiri, and it means deep listening. And it really, what we're talking about is that we don't see what's around us, we don't hear what's around us as a backdrop. You mentioned that before. You seeing Earth is not a backdrop. It is actually, you are part of it. You're seeing yourself as part of it, not, oh, this is nice tree, or this is a nice flower, and so forth. It's there for me to give pleasure to me. Well, you know, you're a part of it. You see, then you hear the bees buzzing and the birds coming, and you understand the whole, how it all fits together. And in many cases, however, in urban environment, on how it isn't all that together. And together with deep listening, I think comes also deep seeing, because, for example, in an urban environment, for many of you who have read the books by Wohlleben, he has just come up with, who speaks about the inner life of trees, that trees actually speak to each other, that they have a complete,
The wolves. So I'll be right back.
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It was just
quite all right. We like
I
to
hate
be
the cold.
I wish I was there with you.
So you're talking about the hidden life of trees.
Yes. So how really, if you know, they're interconnected totally. And you, for those of you who have read books, he has now written a book about the inner life of animals as well, which has just come out. But I remember sitting one day at dinner in San Francisco, where I am at the moment, and my dinner partner said to me, you know, do you go through the streets and see those trees on their own, encased in, you know, whatever we put around them? It may be beton, it may be whatever it is. They have no way they can communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you go and actually hug every once in a while one of these and say thank you? You know what you do? I know we put you only there because, for reasons of, well, it is a barrier so people don't kill themselves. We also use it as a visual. You are serving us, but just to go there and say thank you. Mm. You know, we really appreciate you being there, even though it is not the perfect place for you to be. You're on your own, which is so unnatural, you know. So Just wanting to say that.
I don't have a watch, Chelsea.
We've got about 10 minutes left, and I would love to open the floor to anyone who maybe hasn't joined yet tonight and would like to.
Hi there, this is Stefan. I'm from Vancouver, Canada, in British Columbia. I just want to say hello. It's my first time visually connecting with all of you guys. So I'm very happy to be there. I've been surfing a website for many months, watching videos, reading articles, and all. I find it all extremely inspiring. And likewise tonight, what you said about being rooted and, you know, the need for expression as well, the need for an output. So resonates very deeply for me. So I find myself at a crossroads right now where there's a lot of discovering happening, and this is a significant part of it. So thank you for sharing from your experience, and I'd love to be at your center one day. Thank you.
Discovering is such an exciting time.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Danny. I'm calling from Australia.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you to the Coyotes and Wolves to start with. That was purely amazing. Wonderful start. I just wanted to add a little bit. Some wonderful things have been said, of course, but Susan, you were saying about showing up for the earth and how do we find a path to give back. One thing which is a big thing for me is, and people around me, is keeping our vibrations high. And just recently, like, certain things have come into my life which sometimes you are a bit challenging or make you low, and it's to do with animals, of course, to do with my job. And then people say, well, that's not going to help Mother Nature or help you or help the animals. So working on keeping your frequency and your vibration high gives back and shows that you're showing up for Mother Nature and for the animals as well. So working on that for me at the moment, consciously, is a really big thing. And also, just, I think it was Gabrielle mentioned as well, is when I connect with people through my job with animals, sort of inspiring and educating others is a massive thing as well, because I find people are thirsty to connect. And if we give them a space to do that and create that unity between people, it's like people forget to connect with nature or with the animals, and they long for it, or maybe they don't even know, but doing that is another way to show up and try and give back to Mother Earth by bringing people together around all the things that we're here for today. And passion moves us as well and brings us together. So that's my little bit I just wanted to add in as well.
Thank you. Lovely to hear from you all the way from Australia.
Thank you so much for your time and energy. And knowing that all of these amazing people are in one space, whatever we can call it, is really empowering as well, knowing people have this passion for the planet and animals. So again, someone else also said the tapestry of connections, those words, it's really beautiful, and that inspires me to keep going forward and doing the things I'm doing. So thank you, everyone that's here.
Thank you.
You've time for one or two more comments?
Hey, where? Am I? How do I know?
Yes.
Hello?
We can currently hear you, Kiki. Would you like to add to tonight's conversation?
Oh, hi, hello. I don't know because my screen doesn't show me up. So, I'm Kiki. I'm from Hong Kong. I'm a Chinese, and I would really like to show up to tell you all, hear someone care about this very important conversation. We are talking something really big about all the planet, and then it initiates from our heart. Here I see everyone with full of love about our planet Earth. I really appreciate it. And I really love to listen to you all. And the conversation was so beautiful, full of love and inspiration. I would like to share about a little bit thing about laziness, about not to do something we think we want to do. I found for I found here by reading Penelope's book about animal communication. I found the urge about communication, about communicating with my cats, my feline chameleon for more than 10 years. And I start to realize that when I want to communicate with her more, and I start to realize the love inside is more obvious and growing up. And the more we talk, the more we understand each other, it grows up like every natural process, like for all aspects of life. It's like, but I'm a kind of lazy person. Until I start practicing animal communication, I was not really a listener. I'm not good at listening. But when I really love my companion, I try practice every day to listen to her. Even I have no idea what she was thinking, but I really know she know what I'm thinking clearly. So it's like when I find the urge to love, to care, to take care of something, it will push me to the way to do it. So the laziness went away. It's like the planet. I really love my planet Earth. I appreciate her a lot, and it's so wonderful and beautiful. Give me everything I want and I need, and to survive here, so I can enjoy everything amazing here, including this conversation. So it's wonderful, and I know with my full heart of appreciation, this vibration will spread all over around. What can I give this planet is I keep giving thankfulness and appreciation and the curiosity to explore its beauty. So it's what I want to say, and I love you all. Here is morning, so good morning.
Thank you so much, Kiki. That was beautiful.
That was lovely, Kiki, yes.
It speaks a lot of, to tonight's conversation about what does showing up mean. And that was a first-hand account on how you found, that laziness, that sense of comfort that was probably hard to break through, but it was love that did it. That's really inspiring. We do just have a few more minutes, so if anyone else would like to leave us with any parting thoughts, now is your chance.
We've silenced everybody, huh? I would like to say that last time I suggested we try something for a month, and that we try maybe for 5 minutes a day just to listen. It doesn't matter what we're listening to, and the impact on us. And then perhaps, if we've done that, report back on what it does. So, because when we're listening, we're by definition connecting out to something else. So I would suggest that as an exercise. I suggested it last time very quickly at the end. I don't know if anyone did it. If they did, I'd love to hear about it. But why don't we think about doing that and reporting back next time what it felt like, and did it help us?
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. As always with these conversations, we only really scratch the surface here, and we would love to continue these. And in each month, we have these conversations the third Wednesday of every month, but they're meant to build upon each other. So as Susan said, take what we've discussed here and see what happens when we start to apply it to our daily lives. And we hope you join us next month. It'll be December, I believe 20th. Thank you. Yeah, it's the third Wednesday at the same time. And this conversation was recorded, so I will send out on Friday an email with the material of what was discussed tonight, as well as with the link to that. And you can also get it through our newsletter if you aren't signed up for that. So thank you all so much, and we look forward to seeing you in December.
And hearing any things that have evolved out of these conversations for you to share with us too. Mm-hmm. Well, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Here.
Or good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning.